welcome to the Pivot to Balance podcast. I'm your host, Akay, and I hope you're doing well. In a world that pulls us in a million different directions and with a billion distractions, finding balance can feel like an ambiguous quest. Join me on this podcast as I try to navigate life's twists and turns with mindfulness, purpose, and grace. In each episode, we will dive into topics like self-care, personal growth, mindset shifts by sharing practical insights, stories, and maybe even interviews. Get ready to pivot, to recalibrate, and find your balance. Follow the Pivot to Balance podcast, and I will see you on the other side. In today's episode, we are going to talk about finding clarity in a noisy world. In our fast-paced, tech-savvy world, maintaining mental clarity can be a challenge. You waking up and scrolling Instagram for probably 5 minutes, and you have so much information already, and you've barely woken up. Try this. Go to Instagram or go to Twitter or any place where you can see what you've liked in the past maybe 20 minutes. How many of those things you actually remember? Our brains are constantly bombarded with information, but there are many approaches to help us navigate the sea of distractions. And it all starts with the concept of attention. Our brains have limited cognitive resources, and understanding how they work can help us find clarity in a noisy world. The first key element is retention. This is our brain's ability to focus on a specific task or a piece of information while filtering out the rest. It's a very basic aspect of maintaining mental clarity. So when you're practicing selective attention, you're essentially practicing mindfulness. And one of the examples for this is meditation. They tell you have to focus on your breath, right? These techniques can strengthen your ability to concentrate and direct your attention to the task at hand. Now let's talk about cognitive overloading. This is the mental effort required to process information. The more cognitive load you experience, the harder it is to maintain mental clarity. For example, if you're listening to a podcast and you're watching Netflix and you're cooking and then your mother is talking to you in the background, you're not going to know what to focus on. That's cognitive overloading. Reducing this cognitive loading involves simplifying the environment, eliminating any unnecessary distractions, and organizing your tasks efficiently. So cognitive overloading is basically multitasking. I used to think that I was a multitasker, and it is often seen as a valuable skill, but research and personal experience and a simple Google search will tell you that multitasking impairs your mental clarity. The brain is not designed to juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, but hold on. I'll clarify the difference between multitasking and habit stacking for you. To maintain focus, it's best to have one task in front of you and complete it. When you're fully engaged in a single activity, your cognitive resources can be utilized more effectively. Now let's talk about habit stacking. Habit stacking is a way of combining small habits or tasks into a single routine. For example, if you're cooking breakfast in the morning, you can listen to a podcast. This way, you don't overwhelm your cognitive resources because listening to a podcast while cooking requires less cognitive effort than, say, watching Netflix. To me, habit stacking means going on autopilot. When I get up, the first thing that I do is turn on a podcast. All right, this is very interesting for me to talk about because I do multitasking in a way of habit stacking. Let me clarify that for you. So when I'm cooking, I like to listen to a podcast. The reason that I'm not utilizing a lot of my cognitive resources at that time is because I know how to cook on autopilot. I don't have to think about what I have to do next because I already know the step. You can call that multitasking, but that's necessarily habit stacking for me because both of these things do not require my cognitive resources to be utilized. When I'm listening to a podcast, I have to pay attention to what they're saying. But when I'm cooking, I don't necessarily have to because I know what I'm doing. But when it comes to listening to a podcast and watching Netflix and cooking, that requires a lot of cognitive resources and nobody's going to do that. Now let's talk about the Pomodoro technique. It is another powerful tool. The Pomodoro technique is another powerful tool to manage cognitive resources efficiently. It involves breaking your work into focused intervals, typically 25 minutes, followed by a short break. So it's 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. This method allows you to maximize the use of your cognitive resources while also giving your brain a breather. In addition to habit stacking, consider the power of decluttering your physical and digital space. A clutter-free environment can have a significant impact on your mental focus. If you ever see my physical or digital space being cluttered, it's normally It's usually a reflection of how I actually feel right now. Next thing is prioritization is key. Identifying your most important tasks and working on them first, because this ensures your cognitive resources are directed toward what truly matters. We talked about eat the frog in the last episode. That's basically what you're going to do here. So understanding these principles and understanding selective attention, cognitive loading, the drawbacks of multitasking, Pomodoro technique, habit stacking, the impact of decluttering and prioritization can help you regain your focus and productivity. That's all I have for you for this episode. If you at all found this interesting, and try this and let me know how it works, because if there's something else that you're trying, let me know, because that would be interesting to learn. Tag me on Instagram at the Pivot to Balance podcast and DM me if you have any questions or if you want to talk or if you have any requests to bring someone on the show. Now go grab a cup of lemon water and I will see you in the next episode.